10-year anniversary of 9/11 this weekend. The nation, of course, is remembering those that we lost and catching up with the survivors and their families. And in the days after the attack on the Twin Towers, there were only 2 still photographers granted unlimited access to Ground Zero.
So the images captured by one of them and the stories of the people that are in those pictures is the subject of a new documentary. It's airing on A&E this weekend, and a team of Minnesota producers put the project together. We're going to chat with them in just a minute, but first, I talked with that photographer, Andrea Boer, via Skype from her home in Colorado. Take a look. Andrea Boer is no stranger to disaster. Working for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, she's photographed fires, wars, hurricanes, and more for the past 18 years. But on September 11th, 2001, she knew right away this was different.
And I got a call from a friend telling me to turn on the news. And then I just started packing. I mean, I saw what was happening, and I didn't know how I would be involved, but I knew I'd be involved.
The day after the attack, Boer was part of a FEMA team heading to New York on one of the few private jets allowed to fly. When you first got to Ground Zero, what was your reaction?
I just remember that first morning just being very overwhelmed by it all. You didn't know where the perimeters were. You couldn't see the whole site. It was very smoky, and there were fires burning, and there was light sort of filtering through, exposing certain areas of the site and hiding others. And you just didn't really know what you were going into. It just looked like you were looking into this huge abyss.
Boer hooked up with a search and rescue team, and over the next 10 weeks captured thousands of haunting images of Ground Zero.
The main thing I focused on was keeping up with the team, not being a burden, and documenting. You know, I knew we were shooting for the world at that point.
When she took a photo, she wrote down the subject's name and contact information. And 10 years later, revisiting them is the subject of her new documentary.
I'd looked at their photographs for 10 years and wondered about them, but to go back and hear their stories and see where they were 10 years ago, 10 years later, was really, really special for me and very healing in a sort of way. And then to see it all come together in a documentary, it's just been, I don't know, it's just been extraordinary.
I want to ask you about a young woman named Alexandra, who you took a photo of, who I read was the only one who's been critical of the photo that you took of her in the aftermath of 9/11. What can you tell me about her?
She felt like it forever sort of froze her in this particular moment.
Alexandra is holding a photo of her stepfather, who died when the towers fell.
At that time, what she felt was confusion, and she doesn't feel that that photograph sort of portrays the confusion. And then I guess, she was 15 at the time, and she's 25 now. And she said, from a vanity standpoint, I sort of wish I'd combed my hair that morning.
What do you want people to get out of seeing the documentary when it airs?
For me, yes, the documentary is about 9/11, but really what the documentary is more about is first responders. And what I hope they really take away is just this incredible work and dedication that first responders have, to their job. Her work is incredible. I mean, I mentioned haunting in that piece because that was the only word I could think of to describe those photos, because you can't get them out of your mind. And she really felt that she and that other photographer were the only ones there, and all of their images were being picked up by couriers who were taking them out to the mainstream media, and that's how we were all seeing inside the aftermath. And she said she felt the magnitude of that responsibility right away.
Absolutely. And we mentioned that 2 Minnesotans are behind Portraits from Ground Zero, airing tomorrow on A&E. We're joined by Tim Pearson via Skype. He's the executive producer of Perfect Storm Productions. It's the company that helped Andrea turn the photos into that documentary. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Good afternoon, you guys. Doing really well. Hey, first of all, John and Elizabeth, I want to thank you and Twin Cities Live and your fantastic producer, Kelly, for paying attention to this very important story.
Well, we were so proud, particularly to hear that a couple of Minnesota guys were involved in bringing this project to life. So can you tell me how you got hooked up with Andrea? Because I know she has a little bit of a Minnesota root, too.
She does, yeah. This is one of the craziest stories that we've ever been a part of. It started out on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine. In fact, she used to be a producer for the Steve and Sharon Show, Annie Davis.
Okay.
And Annie called me up on Sunday morning and said, hey, I have a good friend of mine who's a photographer. She's been trying to get a movie done, and she can't get a deal done. She talked to all the studios, including Bill Polad's River Road Entertainment, and she doesn't know what to do. Could you talk? And I said, absolutely. I didn't know who this woman was or what the story was. Andrea came on the phone. She told me it's an amazing journey that she went on, and the photos that she took, the book that she collected these people's stories in, and that she wanted to somehow, for the anniversary, get this story out there, but didn't know what to do. I explained to her that to get a feature film done is impossible in this timeline. By the way, this is just before Christmas. I explained to her it'd be impossible to get this done by September 11th. But what we could do is get a TV documentary done, and we could get that on the air by September 11th. Literally within an hour, she signed to Perfect Storm Productions. I called my good friends in New York at Left Right Productions, knowing that they would really understand the power of this story. Told them about it. By Monday morning, we had a deal between Perfect Storm and Left Right. And by the end of the week, we had an informal agreement with A&E to run the documentary on September 11th. Production actually began in February, and we wrapped up about a week ago. And I got to tell you, it underlines the importance of this story and the power of Andrea's work. It takes normally 2 years to get any kind of a TV show on the air, let alone a documentary film of this nature. So it really just underlines this is just an incredible story, and it had to be told. We were at Perfect Storm, Richard and I, as soon as she told me the story, we just said this could probably be the most important piece we ever do. And
Tim,
I will tell you right now, it's holding up to that.
Tim, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And we have your partner, Richard Hovel, with us here in studio right now. And this is certainly a unique project for you guys. Welcome. This is a unique project for you guys, but you do a lot of great work here out of Minneapolis, right?
Well, we do. We have our company is an odd. We formed by coming up. We were in a cab in New York, and we had watched The Apprentice and hated the advertising segment they did. And Tim and I have been in advertising for a long time, and said there's got to be a better way. We came with an idea for a show. Tim got on the phone. Tim always gets on the phone, and called a guy who he knew. A week later, we were in LA at Reveille, who produces The Office and Ugly Betty and a bunch of other stuff. And we had a show sold to Oxygen. We got to shoot a pilot, which at the time everybody kept saying, "Do you realize how unbelievable this is?" We thought we did. 3 years later, we really understand how unbelievable it is.
Wow.
But we have lots and lots of shows in the works. We kind of take brands and people and concepts and package them together with a production company, somebody that can shoot them. And then often we shoot like a sizzle. We'll do interviews. We are working on a project with a local ad agency for another show of ours that we just shot, and I do a little sizzle, but you keep it simple and short so people can get it, and then we go to networks and sell it.
So, Richard, this one was an easy sell. I mean, it was quick. And what's it going to be like for you to see this air on Saturday?
Oh, it'll be fantastic. Tim really did all the heavy lifting on this one, so it's great for me to watch it because it's very exciting to see it come through.
So glad to have you all here on Twin Cities Live. Thanks for sharing that.
That was really cool. I know you are not going to want to miss this. It's the 2-hour special, Portraits from Ground Zero. It airs on A&E at 9 p.m. Get your family together. If you think you're going to miss it, DVR it, TiVo. Make sure you watch it. Thanks so much. We appreciate it, Richard.
Thanks so much.
Okay, we got more